Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, we are at the time of year where we're probably all spending a little bit more money than we should be. So I wanted to explore how we can better reach our financial goals and also how couples can better work together as a team without arguing and do all that while still having their own privacy and independence. And I suspect that if you look down at your smartphone now and flick between your apps, there'll be a number of different mobile apps to manage your finances, from personal bank accounts, bills accounts, credit cards, savings accounts, and for some of you, maybe even a few crypto apps too. But imagine if you could have a singular view of everything. So today I've invited Katherine Salisbury, co-founder and CEO of a company called Qapital, and that's spelled Qapital. So I've invited Katherine onto the podcast to share her story, because she founded a company with her partner George when they simply wanted a solution to provide a joint overview of all their finances and start to automate how their money moved to savings, investments, bills and spending accounts, etc., all while maintaining their own privacy and independence. So that is our topic for today. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Stockholm in Sweden, where Katherine is waiting to share her story. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Katherine. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So my name is Katherine Salisbury. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Qapital. It's a financial app that helps users in the US with financial wellness, but also you can manage your money, checking account, invest portfolios and everything in the app. And we have a really exciting 2020 ahead of us with a lot of product coming out. So hopefully we'll continue to be able to help users reach their goals and master their financial wellness in the coming year. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do most of the time. My co-founder and co-CEO is my significant other, and we have 4 children together. So that also keeps us pretty busy. And that's about all I have time for.
I love that. And if I was to take you back before Qapital, though, and go way, way back, can you remember where your passion for technology and financial wellness came from, how they all collided together, and what it was that put you on this path?
Sure, that's a great question. The technology part was George's contribution. That's not where my background was. I started as a lawyer in banking. I went to Jefferies Finance, and then I ran a sports agency specializing in soccer. And during all of that, George just kept saying, Katherine, you're pretty irresponsible with your money. And I hated spending time worrying about my money, but I also knew I was bad at it. So I was constantly coming up with hacks so that I could have my cake and eat it too. And along the way, came up with some hacks that were really working. And then George said, well, we can leverage technology to make that come to life, in the App Store for a lot of people. And that was really the start.
And that path, of course, led you to founding Qapital with your partner, George, and where you wanted a solution to provide a joint overview of all your finances and automate how your money moved to savings, investments, bills and spending accounts. And I think if anyone listening was to look at their smartphone at the minute, they've probably got half a dozen apps to manage all those things. So having that single view is incredible. But can you share the story behind the problems that you set out to solve?
Sure. So when we first started, it was really, we had a more simple financial life. We didn't have kids yet. We didn't have a company yet. And so I wanted to be able to stop wasting my money on taxis and takeout and go on better trips, maybe buy a piano, do things like that. Basically stop just kind of piddling it away. And then as we solved that, like you said, we started to get, I have an app that I do. I have so many apps on my phone. Yeah. And George has so many apps on his phone. And, you're always changing the passwords. And we don't have a single place without a lot of effort where we can see what's going on. What bills do we have? How much cash do we have? What are we? How far along are we on retirement? And where are we at and how much are we spending on things? And so that level of complexity, how do you manage things as a household or as a couple without too much pain, was really the effort. It was really the project we set out to work on with our feature called Dream Team that we've spent a lot of time, love, and care on recently. And that's the idea. I couldn't stand spending Saturdays syncing with George about money. I just felt like there were such better ways to be spending my time on a Saturday.
And for anyone listening that are hearing about Qapital for the first time, I should point out that it's spelled Qapital. That app will obviously be on the App Store. But what is it that makes the app different from, let's say, traditional banking and fintech apps?
I think a lot of apps are doing an amazing job at taking a traditional financial product, maybe stock trading or checking account or whatever, and making it much higher tech, much better user experience, simpler. You don't have to get off your sofa, that sort of thing. But what Qapital tries to do, and the original reason we got into it, was how do we make it so that you are making better decisions effortlessly? So I knew that if I was spending a lot of time and effort, I could make better financial decisions, but then I was using up all of that time and effort that wasn't going to, the gym or hanging out with my friends or working or whatever. So how do you get those better financial decisions to basically be automated so that they don't take up any space in your life and you're not doing things in a suboptimal way for your money? So it's that automated good decision making layer that is really the product we try and focus on the most. And then, of course, to do that well for you, we have to build out our own robo product, and we have to build out, our own checking account and those sorts of things. So we have all of those traditional features, but that special layer of how do we make it so I don't have to think about my money, but I do feel like I have my act together.
And when I was doing a little research before you came on the podcast, one of the things that stood out to me was the Dream Team option, which sounds incredibly cool. But can you expand on that for everyone listening? Yeah,
we're really excited about Dream Team because there are a lot of products out there where I can manage my money, but I can't do it in tandem with George. Yeah. So this way we can set goals together. Maybe we both want to go skiing in February, but maybe George is thinking we'll spend less on the ski trip than I'm thinking. It's kind of, I know exactly. It's a very, very real example. And so what are we going to do to get aligned? I mean, if we're not aligned on that, we have friction. And what do we have to do to get aligned on that? Right now, it's very analog, and it's, hey, do you want to go get a coffee and we can sit down and think about our expenses for the upcoming year and how we're going to budget for it, which is just such a snoozer. And George and I honestly once we get to the coffee, we start talking about something else. And so it falls by the wayside. So this is a way for me to set up the goal. We want to go skiing. We want to go on this date. We want to bring the kids. I think it'll cost this much. He can see that goal. He can make a comment. Can't we do it for cheaper? I found this hotel, whatever. So we can plan within the app so that we don't have to use Saturday Live to do it. We can do it asynchronously. And then we can say, okay, great, I'm going to set aside 1% of my paycheck towards this. And so I press a button and automatically Qapital will take 1% of my paycheck and put it into that ski trip goal. And then when it's time to book the ski trip, I can take all the money George contributed and all the money I contributed, and I can go book it. And he can see that I stayed within budget, what I did with the, he can see all of that. And if I say, you know what, I think we're going to have to go over budget, I can leave a note there rather than disrupt dinner to talk about it. And so it's really a great tool for us to communicate all those things. And you can do more, of course, than just the goal setting and management. He can see if I want to show him that I have money in my Robinhood account, I can show him just that I have money in Robinhood, but not exactly how much of it is all in Tesla, so that he can't criticize me. He can ask me if I want to show that to him in the app so that it doesn't have to be, and so that's the thing. I can show him as much as I want to and keep private as much as I want to. And he can give me the controls that he might say, you know what, you're doing such a great job in Robinhood. Why don't you put 5% of my paycheck in as well? And then I'll do that. And so that's the idea, is we have a joint place where we can share as much as we want to and have a collaborative experience with money instead of perhaps the friction we have otherwise.
And what I love about your story there is I'm nodding along and laughing in agreement in certain parts, because it's a universal thing here, and it's something that every couple can relate to, and those kind of difficult conversations, and the fact that you can build on that dream together while also keeping things separate and private. That's where the magic happens, isn't it?
Oh, thank you. It is for us, and our hope is that others have the same experience. The users in the beta of Dream Team have given us really wonderful reviews, and it's so heartwarming, because sometimes you wonder, are we the only ones that go through this? But it does seem to be quite universal.
Yeah, it really does. And from a tech guy, I was also reading about the app has an integration with If This Then That, which so many people listening will have various recipes that they automate on there. And I believe with you, it allows you to save money automatically when using other apps, such as in a similar way of tracking a workout on Fitbit, allowing you to save money without even thinking about it. So can you tell me a little bit more about that feature?
Absolutely. So If This Then That is a partner that we've been working with since 2015, and it's an amazing company. And they have put together these logics so that exactly right. If I want to say every time I take an Uber, put $5 in the ski trip, then we can set it up and it automatically happens. The app knows that I took an Uber and now moves $5 into that savings account. And we can set up lots of them. In fact, one of the things we're hoping to do is get customers to tell us more about what integrations they want us to build out. We had an every time Donald Trump tweets, save for me. That one's not being used now, obviously, but for a while it was quite popular. And that sort of gamification, they're not the meat and potatoes of how you save for the ski trip. But the users use things like Payday Divvy and other features for that. But the If This Then That integrations are really powerful for that extra boost. And the behavioral economists really love it because it helps link good behaviors together.
And I'm curious, do you get to hear any feedback from users? Do you get to hear any stories? I mean, me and you are talking here, and the stories really resonate with me, but do you get to hear from anybody out there?
It's funny you ask. I interviewed 2 people this week that we want to hire at Qapital, and both of them had been long-term Qapital users, which was such a treat. That's how we found them. One woman described how she wanted to save for a vacation, and she opened the Qapital app and set up a savings goal for it and set up a rule, and then didn't think about it again, and then went and checked on it when she wanted to go on the trip, and she had successfully saved, which is probably the most common story we hear, is that someone goes in with, you get that initial burst of energy and say, I want to do this. I'm going to get organized on this. And then, especially in January, we all do it. We're about to get ready for it. And then what happens is it's just tedious to keep up with things. So the automation, that's what we hear from almost everyone, is because I set it up and then I forgot about it, I didn't really miss the money and I was able to achieve my goal. That's the use case we hear all the time. And it makes me so happy because that's really what we set out to do.
So what's next for Qapital? Where do you go from here?
We are really excited about some of the features that are going to be coming out in 2022. We're going to start to help people manage their student loans. That's a big issue in the United States. I think it's 40 million Americans have had their student loans on pause during COVID, and they're going to come back into repayment territory in January. And so we want to help at that inflection point, manage the fact that you have this new bill again, and how do you optimize for it? And then we're also really focused on, we saw a big energy during COVID for people to start switching to savings and long-term savings. We want to help support them with that. So we're going to have retirement accounts, all the help with the tax advantages and things that you can get if you do it right. So that's also on the agenda. And then our product teams are bursting with ideas all the time. So there's more to come.
Love that. Well, we've reached the end of the podcast now. We began talking about your origin story, and I'm now going to ask you, what was the soundtrack to that origin story? Is there a song or piece of music that has inspired you or just helps you get your head in the zone during your career? Now, you are based in Stockholm. Yesterday, somebody said, I Have a Dream by ABBA. Maybe you could go Money, Money, Money. I don't know. But is this a song that means anything to you?
My very genuine response to this is we listened to Renegades by Ex-Ambassadors, and we had a karaoke night with our team in New York 2 weeks ago, and everyone was singing Renegades. It's a great one, and it does feel like, what we want to do is disrupt things. So many historically financial products have really been, you're the product. People are monetizing the fact that you're in financial stress. So we really want to upset that and help people instead of, monetize off of their weaknesses and their challenges. So that's our song.
Love it. Great choice. I'll add that to our Spotify playlist. And before I let you go, though, for people listening anywhere in the world that want to be looking at the app, finding out more information or downloading it, where's the best place to find you online?
I guess the App Store and Google Play.
Yeah. And it's just look up Qapital and they'll find you nice and easily. Yeah, exactly. The Q and there's no U, so it's just Qapital with a Q. Well, I'll add a link to that so people can find it nice and easily. I love everything that you're trying to achieve here and the reasons behind it, and even more so, the story behind it of you and George there and that mission that you've gone on. And maybe I'll have to get you back on next year and find out if that ski trip did happen or not. But more than anything, thanks for sharing your story with me today. Thanks so much, Neil. It's really been a pleasure talking to you. If anyone is trying to improve their finances or setting a few financial goals for January 2022 and beyond, I urge you to check out Qapital. Have a little look at the Dream Team, which is meant for couples and partners to balance their finances together and provide a cockpit view of the joint finances and let them decide which balances they want to share and obviously which ones they might not want to share, and allow them to move money forward as a team. And if you are a user of If This Then That, then check out the integration there. And equally, if you've never heard of that IFTTT, where have you been? You need to check that out. You can create a script for almost anything, such as create a Spotify playlist for every song that you Shazam when you're out and about. So in fact, I'm going to invite you to share your favourite IFTTT recipes with me. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can get me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn at Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. But that's it for today, so a big thank you to Katherine for coming on the podcast today and sharing her story, and an even bigger thank you to each and every one of you for listening to this show. But before I get all sentimental and start rambling on, until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.